Welcome to Spin the Rock. My name is Eugene.
And I'm Vaughn. No Angel today, unfortunately,
Yes,
but we're still running the show.
sir.
We got a busy episode this time. Quite a few topics. I would just rather get into the short ones, and then we can talk about championship and what our favorite part of the season was after that.
Mhm.
So first on the list, we got JJ Redick, Lakers head coach. I feel like I just got to take the back seat on this one. The Lakers fan.
Um, I mean, so off rip, um, there was the UConn head coach too, who
Mhm.
ended up, I guess, being interviewed, and then he declined his 4 year, 70 mil contract, which I can't necessarily blame him. Bro's going for a three-peat. Um, and UConn is UConn. Um, but although it would have been interesting to see how he transferred over and how well he would have or not would have done in the NBA, I think it's always interesting to see college coaches go to professional level, whether that's basketball or football, because football a lot of times it doesn't translate. Um, but I think that would have been cool. But I don't know, JJ Redick, no prior coaching experience.
It feels
It'll be
like
interesting.
Steve Nash 2.0.
Right. So it could either be, I think it's either gonna be really, really good or he's just gonna flop. Um, but his basketball IQ match with LeBron, I think they could do great things. But at the end of the day, we'll see next season. It should be better
Yeah,
than Darvin Ham, though.
I would hope so. Like you could see on his podcast, he really breaks down the game very thoroughly.
Mhm,
But it's probably a different thing outside looking in rather than being on court side. Like we know he was a player, but he wasn't really dictating the decisions. And
mhm,
to go from no coach to the Lakers, who's like blows right through coaches like crazy. It doesn't matter if you win a championship. Apparently, like he
right.
could get outed immediately. Um, it's kind of weird. Well, not necessarily weird, but it's definitely like a dicey situation for him because I remember when he was in talks to be head coach of Charlotte
Mhm,
Hornets. I'm like, if you're going to be a head coach, I guess it's starting somewhere like that needs anything good, like the Charlotte Hornets would have been a nice place because that he kind of develops as a coach. But to
mhm.
go straight into the Lakers,
Right, like one of the most prestigious teams ever in sports, period. Yeah, it's just
so
kind of like it's a little crazy.
um, what was I gonna say? Oh, I guess it's not impossible that he has a very successful tenure there, considering, I mean, him and LeBron have a podcast together, and they
Mhm.
seem to have a good working relationship. And so there's probably not going to be any like friction there, I would imagine. So it could be a smooth sailing, at least for the beginning part. But we got to really see. I think for this season coming up, I feel like the roster is going to matter more than the coaching here.
Yeah,
With
definitely. Because I remember I didn't save it, unfortunately, but on Instagram I saw there was a report from, it might have been like Windhorse or Woj, that said his potential coaching staff would include like uh Jared Dudley, Rondo, which he hasn't even been a coach either. Sam Cassell, and who's the old Thunder coach?
was it Scott Brooks,
Yes, the current Blazers coach, right? Or assistant coach, something like
assistant
that.
coach? Yeah.
Yeah. Um and him. So, all former players um and or former coaches. So the coaching lineup could also do wonders for us, but
Mhm.
I mean, like I said, at the end of the day, we'll see. He did have a solid uh coaching plan to work through AD and implement him more in the offensive end. Because like obviously this year he was, but not as much as he could have been. So I would like to see that more as a fan. Yeah, I don't know. I'm very intrigued though.
I really do want to see how this pans out.
Mhm.
All those assistant coaches you named were like excellent, like candidates. Like none of them were like weak points in any assistant coach. Like Sam Cassell just came off this Boston championship run,
Mhm.
so it is exciting to see for that. Next bit of news, just Caruso for Josh Giddey trade, 1-for-1, no picks included.
I literally saw this trade when I was gonna get in the shower, and I wanted to cry, bro. So like, okay, on the surface, it's pretty much even, in my opinion. But the only one who loses, in my opinion, is Josh Giddey. The
That's
Bulls
exactly
don't necessarily lose. The Thunder don't lose. Caruso doesn't necessarily lose. But Josh Giddey loses. Coming off of this season with the Thunder that he just came off of, minus all of the off the court stuff, like he was still hooping regardless of literally everything. And they've been clicking together for years. And with Chet, coming back, rookie of the year campaign, stuff like that. And it's like, what happened? Because I feel like something had to happen for them to say, we're gonna trade you, Josh. You know what I mean? So I feel like there was something that was like under the surface.
I think it just was a combination of things, like the thing that happened off court, and then
Mm,
in the playoffs, Josh Giddey really needed the ball in his hands to like be effective at anything because
mm,
he wasn't having a good shooting series and he wasn't doing very good defensively either. And I think they're just looking at the rest of the roster, be it Jalen Williams, Chet, even Isaiah Joe, just what the team composition is, and they're like, we're going to cut off Giddey. If we're going to cut off anyone, it's going to be Giddey.
mm,
Now he's in Chicago. I imagine they wanted him to handle the ball, to be the point guard, because I saw reports they wanted to move on from Lonzo, even contract buyout, even.
mm,
So that could have just, I guess Chicago can win in that regard. And the Thunder get a great role player in Caruso. Like it used to be he was just like defensive minded, but last year he had like a career high in 3-point percentage. So
mm.
that's a big boost to them on both sides of the ball.
Right.
So exciting things for the Thunder. It kind of sucks that they're losing a young piece of their core, but they have a million draft picks still. Like
Yeah.
I don't think that's to worry about.
And a proven player on both sides of the court.
Mm.
So like it's good. It's not necessarily, did one team lose or not? Because they didn't. They really didn't. But it was just more of like Giddey just lost. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
The one stipulation I have is for Chicago didn't even get one single second round pick. Like Thunder has a treasure trove of them, and you couldn't get one.
right.
But like their management has been defunct for a while, it feels. But now, since Caruso's gone, I know the next big name Chicago has seemingly wanted to trade has been Zach LaVine. I don't know who's even interested in Zach LaVine. Like when I think Zach LaVine, he's like the young dunker who can shoot, but he's like 29. Like he's not getting any younger. He's not known for defense. I couldn't even speculate on where he could go, who would want him. Do you have any ideas, or could we move on to our next one?
I mean, it'd just be someone. It'd just be a team who like lacks, just shooting in general, because his mid range is pretty good. And I figure if they're trading Caruso and looking to, I guess, step away from Lonzo, whether that's a buyout or whatever else. They're probably going to look to just disband the whole, like that whole core, with DeMar and Levine. So, I mean, anyone will take DeMar happily.
Right.
But yeah, like a Levine, it would probably just be to a team who needs shooting, and probably, I would assume, be either in contention or a title contender. I just don't know, like, off top, who would try and
Right.
trade for him, especially
'Cause
because he's
when
injury prone a little bit.
Yeah, I also kind of see Zach LaVine more as a third option if they're going to be a championship caliber team.
Mhm.
Um, just because based off what I've seen in Chicago the last few years. But at the same time, I could see a desperate team like Detroit wants to not be the worst team at the bottom. It makes a
Right.
trade for Zach LaVine. Um, worst, probably worst scenario for him, but at least he'd be out of Chicago.
Mhm.
Um, next trade speculation we got Jimmy Butler, who I can't see him moving out of Miami, but I guess I don't know. Pat Riley really doesn't have a strong connection to like hanging on guys for too long. And based on what Jimmy wants, it's like a 2-year max contract, which is like over 100 million. No. um, I, as much as I hate seeing Jimmy in the playoffs, I think if the Mavs were to trade for anyone, I think Jimmy would be the guy. I've seen people want Paul George or Jeremy Grant, but I don't know. Jimmy Butler on the Mavs would kind of go crazy. I just don't know how they'd make that trade work, but if they could, I think that
I
puts
don't
them
know how
over
they
the
make the trade work and like playing with each other work.
top.
Not necessarily just egos, but like they're, that's Kyrie, Luca, and Jimmy,
Yeah,
all
they're all
three
big
ball
personalities.
dominant.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. So I I think it very well could work, but they just have to Jason Kidd would have to figure out some crazy system for it to actually work successfully.
And
Um
then
oh
oh
yeah,
yeah,
you can say the other one.
the other one was Brandon Ingram. Uh, I guess Pelicans don't want to pay him, so they might move on from him. And I've seen him connected to the Cavs, the Sixers, but really like a scoring forward who can handle the ball like Ingram is a talent a lot of teams would want. So it could be one of those surprise trades as well.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I don't really have much to say on Jimmy Butler. It's just surprised me in general that he's hopped around the league so much. Given he's a proven, all-star, multi-time all-star. Um, I don't really want to see him on the Heat, any longer. But I mean, if he's if he enjoys it, why not? Why not? You know what I mean?
Right.
Um, but I also don't know, like, a destination and where he would go and still, I guess, thrive. Maybe like the Wolves, if they had like pieces they wanted to, like,
Back to the Wolves, huh?
right?
That
But
would be insane. But like Anthony Edwards kind of is the player he would want to be teammates with. He's got the grit and he's got the confidence. I mean, completely different player from Carthy Towns, I would
mhm,
say, when he was originally there.
mhm,
That would be interesting to see, to say the least. I don't
right.
know if he would change his mind wanting to be there or not, but it would be fun at least.
um, who else? Who else could use a Jimmy Butler? Um,
I would say maybe like the Sacramento Kings because they've
mm,
proven they're a playoff team, and if slide them right next to De'Aaron Fox, you got Keegan Murray, and then of course Sabonis. There's a lot of smart players there. We've seen them play with high effort, but it just hasn't sustained throughout a year this season, unfortunately.
right.
But I think he could take them over the top. At least that would be my hope. It's just, would they be willing to pay him the money he wants? Like, he's old right now, and I think if he wants his max contract, he'll be like 37 by the time it expires.
Yeah, it definitely has to be at least a title contender, not even like a playoff contender. You know what I mean? But I do like I kind of like the Mavs on paper.
Yeah.
But we're not talking about just paper. So, but yeah, I mean, if he ends up going somewhere, it'll be interesting because I didn't anticipate him leaving the Bulls, let alone going to the Sixers, going to the Timberwolves, the Heat, kind of, because that was like the big thing at that time. But yeah, I definitely didn't expect him bouncing around the league as much as he has. In terms of Brandon Ingram, you threw out the Sixers, and I know, aren't they like trying to step away from Tobias, or did I hear something wrong? Yeah,
they likely want to let him walk or do a sign and trade for a different player,
which I think could work for Brandon Ingram, because he is slightly younger than Tobias, and he's a more volume scorer. You know what I mean? Tobias is like a spot up shooter, but BI can make his own shots, whether that's off the ball or on the ball. He's long enough to defend pretty much anyone in the league. And he could help out Joel Embiid on the scoring side. So I think that could probably be a good fit. Who's their point guard?
Tyrese Maxey.
Yeah.
Or the Pelicans. I don't know what Pelicans point guard they got.
I don't either. Outside of Alvarado, who was hurt like half the season. But yeah, it'll be interesting too with them, because then it'll just be Zion and McCollum, which means Zion will have the ball primarily in his hand, with BI off the team. So I don't know. And you said the Cavs too?
Yeah, I don't even know where I'd want to see Ingram. The Cavs, I think, could use him, but it would probably mean them giving up Darius Garland in that trade.
Yeah.
At least by reports. And I don't love the idea of Donovan playing point guard, because he would probably have to play point guard.
Mm-hmm.
He's done it before, but I think he's best primarily as a scorer.
Because then you'd have to move, if that trade ended up going down, you'd have to move Okoro to shooting guard.
Probably. He could probably split that position with Max Strus, but I mean, Ingram probably wants that small forward spot, so someone's gonna have to move or even come off the bench.
Mm-hmm.
But they did need scoring in the playoffs, and he could offer that. I don't know if he's their solution though.
You think you would? Oh well, I keep forgetting New Orleans is in the Western Conference. You think he would go to an Eastern Conference team? Or you think it's just like whoever's got the most money?
It probably is the money, because you don't have these scenarios where you're up for a big payday all the time. Like, you get maybe one or two huge contracts, and this is probably the one coming up.
Mm-hmm.
If I was him, I'd go for money, but who knows? Maybe he is really ring driven and wants to pursue that.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't even tell you what type of personality is. He's pretty laid back, so not like a Jimmy Butler type who's like a demon for a championship or not.
I don't know. BI's interesting though. It's an interesting case, because I mean, it's basically Jimmy Butler, like, except age, but both proven players. So it's like, who needs a small forward in the league right now? As you mentioned, the Mavs. The Mavs are in dire need of anyone else. I mean, I was thinking the Knicks, but I don't think they have like cap for like anything.
We have to give up Julius Randle, would be my guess.
And
If they're going to give up.
I don't think they want to do that. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, I guess it can go either way because they just had this playoffs without Julius. And had they been healthy, they probably could have got further.
Mm-hmm.
But like at one point, Julius Randle was an MVP candidate like 1 or 2 seasons ago.
Yeah, that's true.
He's still very elite at what he does.
Oh, might be a little hot take for either. Well, no, not for Jimmy. Arguable for Brandon Ingram. The Magic?
I think Ingram would be better only because they needed scoring and shooting.
Right.
Their shooter last year was like Joe Ingles. I'm like, you're not getting anywhere, Joe Ingles. I'm sorry.
And he was like their only veteran presence too.
They're very young team.
Because like they finished 5th seed, they were sitting up like top 3 or 4 for like a good part of the season. You know, they are on the younger side, but you know, with Brandon Ingram and I guess Joel Ingles being a veteran presence, they could learn more from them. And to my knowledge, I can only name like 3 or 4 Magic players. So, and not one of them being a small forward. So I think that could potentially be a good fit. Eastern Conference wise. West is kind of hard because the West is just stacked, period.
Well, this kind of goes into our next topic, but Clay leaving the Warriors could be looking to replace him. I've seen PG tied to that, but they could make a trade for Brandon Ingram if they can make that money work somehow. But to think that Clay, after all this time, is finally leaving the Warriors, they're breaking up the band. Never would have thought this day would come. I thought he was going to retire a Warrior, to be honest.
I don't know, because like it's hard, bro. Because it's like it's literally like, what do you do? Obviously, you're not going to be, you know, a player's not going to be the same after tearing both ACLs. You know what I mean? So it's like they can only expect so much, but even with those expectations, he still was like underwhelming, I guess. So I don't know. I guess it's more of like, do the Warriors want to keep him as like a forever Warrior? You know what I mean? Like Steph obviously is going to retire as a Warrior. Do they want that for Clay? Are they focused on a championship right now or not? Me personally, if I'm the Warriors, I might just say, let's chalk it and let's just kind of like rebuild through the draft, see what we got. I don't know how many draft picks they have, or even so, they could trade for draft picks. You know what I mean? Which I think might be smart in the long run, because like they had their dynasty, their time's over. They don't necessarily need, you know, another chip anytime soon. Obviously, everyone wants a chip every year, but you know, you understand what I'm saying. It's really interesting though, because like, who does he play, shooting guard or small forward?
Both. It just depends on who was there. I remember when Kevin Durant would play small forward, he was definitely shooting guard.
That's true.
But they've had small ball lineups where he does play shooting guard. And even when they slide Draymond to the 5, I think I've seen him play power forward, but sitting in the corner. but
Yeah,
most
so
of
that's
these people
that's
don't.
just some like warrior shit. Most of the league doesn't do that. So we'll say he's like he's like 6'6", 6'7", right? So he's
Yeah.
typical shooting guard. Who needs a shooting guard in the league? Minus all of the bad teams. Ooh, hot take. This is like a magic take that I just said. What about the Hawks?
The Hawks are desperate for anything. I think at this point, any sort of success comes their way, they just take it. They got the number one pick in the draft. They
Mm,
could try and trade that, but I wouldn't use that on Klay Thompson when he's 34.
right.
It could be one of their younger. It could be a DeAndre Hunter
Hmm.
they use if it's a sign and trade. Try and go for Clay, but they could just sign him outright too. I guess it just depends how willing they are to spend on him.
Hmm.
Like this is the problem: is Clay is like getting up there and he's on a down year, which was like 20 points a game still. It's just like the volume was too high for it. The efficiency wasn't like what it used to be. I don't know who's going to take that gamble with that kind of money. Because even if the Warriors seemingly offer him something better, I don't think it's enough.
Hmm.
So if I was Warriors, I would just let him go. It's just if you sign him back on, you kind of saw this season like his attitude. He was kind of down in the dumps, and it just kind of feels like he's gonna like look for greener pastures in a sense,
Right.
um, some different form of success. Because if you're on the Warriors, I imagine he's kind of like reminding himself of like who he used to be as a player,
Hmm.
whereas he could go elsewhere and find a different role, whether it be like vet, maybe even comes off the bench for shooting. Um, that's what I would imagine should happen. If they do sign him back, it feels like the crew is going down with the ship.
Yeah.
They're not going to be good for the next years until they retire. And
Yeah.
when you look at Steph still has it in him. Like
Hmm.
he's top 10 player potentially moving into next season still. I think you just have to capitalize that if you're Warriors management. And if you're Clay, you might as well look for a better contract.
Right.
Now, as you said who needs a shooting guard? Uh, we kind of mentioned them already, but the Magic needs shooting.
Hmm.
I know they've had ties to him. The Sixers, I don't like him on the Sixers, but considering Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey handle the ball a lot, and Clay is notorious for just like catch and shoot constantly, he could be a fit for them.
Okay, I got a few other teams on the weaker side, more or less. Um, the Nets. What do you think about him on the Nets?
I just don't like the Nets in general. They're they have such good pieces just to be as mid as they are.
Right. But I think I really do think that's a management thing. Management and coaching thing. You know what I mean? It could
Yeah,
be
and I
better
guess like
coaching. It could be a lot better management.
yeah, and Ben Simmons is still there, so that's always going to be a hiccup in whatever plans they try to do because they got so much tied up with him. Or
Right.
guy's probably not going to play next year either. So
All right, bet.
it,
The Heat, I don't know if they even have cap or are looking, shopping for a shooting guard, but like I feel like that's what they're missing, bro. They're focused too much on defense and not enough on offense. Like they only have Jimmy and Bam for offense,
Tyler Hero, I would say.
who's
Um,
also a little injury prone.
yeah, I think I don't know. That's tough because they do need offense, but I think there's if you're going to make a play for a heavy contract,
Mm-hmm.
I would not use that on Clay.
Mm-hmm.
Even if I'm going to make a trade, I would not use that on Clay because I feel like that just tightens their window even more. And you already
Yeah,
have
that's
Jimmy,
true.
who's already getting up there. Um, I think it's a dangerous gamble for them.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right. I think they do need something on offense.
All right, bet. Two more teams. Both West. The Jazz.
The Jazz could make a push to try and be more relevant.
Like, even if it's just to win more games, not even necessarily make playoffs or play in. Just they won 31 games. So they could get up to 40, 35. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can see that. I could see. I don't know if Danny Ainge would go that route, but
Right.
if they would, I think Clay would be a good addition for that because
They don't
Markkanen, Keontae George, Walker
right.
Kessler, they got something good over there. They just have to build on it.
And they don't have a lot of shooting, at least from what I've seen. So I feel like he could help with that. He could space the floor, help them space the floor a little bit. And then the last team, we got the injury-plagued Grizzlies.
Now,
obviously, someone would have to leave. It would just be who?
because it'd be point guard John Morant, shooting guard Desmond Bain. You put Clay at small forward, then power forward Jaren Jackson, center Steven Adams. That could be an interesting team to watch, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
But I imagine Marcus Smart wouldn't come off the bench. I think they'd have to trade him for space.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe I don't know who else they could make that trade or make that signing happen. Who else?
I mean, maybe it may be like a Desmond Bain and some picks. I think they could do a 1-for-1 with Marcus Smart, but I don't think they want to, go away from him, given they just signed him. They traded for him. So I think it would be a Desmond Bain, maybe another player and some picks. I don't know, though.
I would definitely ride it out with Desmond Bain because he's just younger and he's just as good of a shooter.
Mm-hmm.
But that would be an interesting concept. I think the issue would be why go for Clay if you have this roster you can check? Because last season we didn't really get to see what this team was like.
Right, it was a fluke because literally everyone was hurt.
You don't see that very often. I think you just have to see what this team is like before you start making trades. But if come middle of the season, Clay on whatever team he's on next year, they want something extra, maybe they pursue him.
Oh, okay. Wait. So we were talking about BI, right?
Right.
Potentially leaving. So what about Clay go on the Pelicans and BI goes elsewhere?
I don't mind that.
Because then it would be whoever the point guard is, probably CJ at shooting guard, and then Clay at small forward. That's how I'm envisioning it. And then Zion at whatever the fuck he plays, power forward center, and then whoever the center is.
I think their point guard might be, if not Jose Alvarado, it would be Dyson Daniels or even Jordan Hawkins. So you could either go with the defensive lineup if you have Dyson Daniels, throw Herb Jones in there somewhere, or go offense, Jordan Hawkins shooter, and then what's his name? Trey Murphy at either forward spot.
Yeah, that's compy, bro. Because either way, it would be you space the hell out of the floor, or essentially you're, every player is long,
Right. I like the spacing because if you put Zion at center, I would like to see Zion at center if he's got shooters. I'd like to see how that performs. Because Jonas Valanciunas has been their big man for so long, I feel like you just got to move on at this point. I don't know if he's free agent or if they can trade him, but just something to shift the lineup. It's been too much of this. All right. Is that the last trade speculation we got?
I think so.
Okay. Now we got the Siakam extension. They finally locked him up. Um, I mean, that's only a W move for the Pacers, I think.
Right.
A lot of money, but like it's Siakam. He's one of the best power forwards playing right now.
Yeah, I think he's worth it, especially because of how he was playing with the Pacers. Like if he had got traded and was kind of like lackadaisical or whatever, then it would have been like, okay, like what are y'all doing for that much money? But I think he very clearly enjoys being in Indiana. And he verbally said that too, I believe. So
That's crazy.
it,
Since I'm in Indiana.
it's literally only up from here. So for the Pacers, which finally, like,
I know.
it's good to see for Miles Turner, for Tyrese, literally just for that whole organization since what's his face, Paul George. So hopefully it's only up from here. God forbid any anything bad happens.
Right.
But yeah,
It is good to see that, like, of all people that have been traded in the middle of the year, like we had Rozier traded the Heat and didn't really mesh well. Immediately, Siakam made a difference. Like
right.
they would not have had this playoff run without him.
Mhm.
Um, it's a good thing to build off, especially all the young players they got alongside them too, be it Matherin or Nemhard or even Halliburton. It's just like it's a bright spot to beat. But I also hope they don't try to go all in right now. I think they really need to ride this out and see where this team goes because obviously, Eastern Conference was like plagued with injuries. Um, but I think the fans been downplaying what the Pacers did a little too much. Like I don't even think if they had Giannis in that first round series, I don't think the Bucks beat the Pacers still.
Right. Like the Pacers were playing at such a high level, and the Bucks, even going into the playoffs, were just playing bad, like just bad basketball. And it didn't help that they lost Drew Holiday. Okay, like yes, they have Dame, but like the shift in team chemistry always happens with the trade.
Yeah.
And we really saw that. And then on top of that, they fired their coach
Yeah.
before the halfway point of the season, and hired Doc Rivers, which we know how that goes. So everything was just like it was messed up for the Bucks, basically from the start. Uh, so I still do think the Pacers could have beat probably a healthy Bucks as well. But yeah, I do agree with you. They should ride it out. Just try and keep building through the draft because that's essentially what they've been doing. And they've been doing really good. So yeah, I think that should just be their primary focus and keep it pushing.
All right, that's it we have for news. But you already mentioned him once, Drew Holiday of the championship Celtics. Um, I, as a Celtics fan, I was kind of already gushing about it last episode when they were up 3-0. Um, but now we're here. Banner 18. Celtics have most in the league. Sorry, Lakers fans, broke the tie. Um, but the crazy thing is, this team is going into next year with basically the same roster. I think the only difference is Xavier Tillman is hitting free agency. He wasn't a huge part, but he did get minutes at some points. So basically, my question is, do they go back to back? Because there's a lot of change that needs to happen in the rest of the league for them to compete with the Celtics.
Right. I mean, bro, we said the same thing about the Nuggets. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, at least preseason, we were like, Nuggets could go back to back because they didn't. Did they even change anything? I don't think they did.
They lost some role players like Jeff Green. I don't know who else, but like it was
Not
pretty
enough to
small.
change. Yeah, not enough to change.
Yeah.
Like an outcome tremendously. So it's like, I will say they'll go back to back if they have the same exact season that they had or better.
Right.
Meaning, like, what was their record? Let me see.
60.
64-18. They didn't even lose 20 games.
Right.
You know how crazy that is?
But even
Second
in
place lost
playoffs,
32 games.
like even in the playoffs, they only lost 3 games. Like,
Yeah.
have,
So
have
they
the
lost
arguments. It's
less
just,
than 25 games the entire season.
Mhm.
So it's like that is peak basketball, essentially.
Right.
So unless they try and go for the Warriors record, I don't not see them going back to back.
Mhm.
So pre-early board prediction, Celtics back to back. But it's just kind of hard to bet against them though, because this is exactly what you want, you know, your championship team to do. Like when the Lakers won their bubble chip, I was
Yeah.
like, keep them all. We got
They
rid of
said
half the
no.
roster. like for what? They were playing out of their mind. I mean, Nuggets did it, but I think they got, not necessarily plagued with injuries, but they had some injuries along the way, which didn't help.
Yeah, it also didn't help. They didn't fix their biggest flaw. Didn't get Jokic a backup center. Like he had to play all the minutes this season. It felt like.
Right.
Whereas the Celtics, I don't think there's any roster issues other than like Porzingis' health. Like we were lucky this season.
I
And
mean,
when Porzingis, Al Horford stepped up
right.
and fit that role perfectly.
Everyone has a backup, like a good backup on your team. So it's like it would really come down to coaching. And on top of that, Joe Mazzulla's like, at this point, he's elite,
Right.
So it's like there's the Celtics are literally the perfect organization, which is insane because we haven't seen this. I don't want to say not ever, but probably for a long time. You know what I
I want
mean?
to say since like the Spurs, right? Like they got 5 chips off a core with Manu, Tony Parker, Tim Duncan, and they just always built around them.
Right.
So
And the fact you're building off a bench player in Manu is like,
yeah,
who does that? So, yeah, I mean, y'all just got it, bro. Y'all got it.
I think there's 2 halves to this finals, and it's the Mavericks is the other half. They're obviously going to be the favorite moving into next season to win the West, but they definitely have some flaws they can fix. We kind of already mentioned potential, whether it be a PG-13 Jimmy Butler, Brandon Ingram trade. But I think just top down, the roster needs fixing. I don't know when I said this, but they got to get rid of Tim Hardaway Jr. That man, he could not play in the playoffs.
It's
Him
still
alongside Maxi Kleber, like they were not guys you could rely on.
it still amazes me though that they even made it that far. They shouldn't
Yes.
have made it past the second or the first round against the Clippers, right?
Yeah, like even with the Timberwolves, after they beat the Nuggets, it looked like they were destined for the finals, and they just embarrassed themselves.
Like, I don't know. Because it really seemed like the Wolves had a clear finals run. After they beat who was their second round?
Second round was Nuggets. First round was Suns. And those were
Well, yeah,
teams that had
they were gonna
high
whoop the Suns,
expectations.
but
Yeah.
right. Yeah, they ended up beating the wait.
The Nuggets?
Yeah, the Nuggets. Yeah.
Yeah.
They ended up beating the Nuggets. So then at that point, it was like, yo, like they might do it. And then somehow, some way, Ant has more bad games than the Mavs, and they just flop. And it was like, damn, bruh. But I mean, it was cool to see Luka in the finals. Kyrie back in the finals. It was just a big letdown. I'm not even gonna lie. I probably watched a total of like a game and a half or two. It was just so boring because it's like the Celtics are eons better than the Mavericks, bro. So
Yeah,
it was just kind of a letdown, and it kind of didn't even really seem like a finals, bro. Like TD
that's what a
Garden
lot
was
of people are
lit,
saying.
right?
Yeah,
TD Garden was lit, but when they went to Dallas, bro, it was not nearly as lit. And obviously, like TD Garden,
all
it's
right.
Boston, but like come on, bro, y'all got to show out.
That was a little bit disappointing. It was like allowing the Boston team to just feed off that arena. Like every time they made a shot, it went dead quiet.
Mhm.
And you can't really do that if you're a fan of the game, whether you're getting whooped or not. It kind of just sucks away the energy from your own team, and that was that was definitely disappointing. But as for the Mavericks roster goes, I just say good luck. um, I would when you look at that, it's definitely not a finals looking team. You
No,
know,
definitely not.
like not Jimmy, Kyrie, Luca did everything to get out of the first three rounds. And you'd have like the occasional player like PJ Washington would show up, but the next game it would be like Derrick Jones Jr. But even then, they were getting wide open looks from either Kyrie or Luca's passes, and that just was not happening against Boston.
Mhm.
Too much switchability, it just kind of ate them alive. I honestly think if I'm gonna pick a Western Final team next year, it's definitely not Mavericks. I'm not saying this run was a fluke run, but like I think it's more of the other team's issues hurt them themselves more than the Mavericks did it. You know?
Right. Yeah. Like, I would also agree with you saying that it wasn't necessarily a fluke. They definitely deserved to be in the finals based on how they played in the playoffs, but it wasn't the Mavs winning the actual games. It was the other team losing the games. um so I definitely, unless the Mavs make moves, I definitely wouldn't say they make it that far either again,
Oh no.
but I don't know. Something needs to happen. They need to add more pieces. At least another veteran piece, whether that's on or off the bench. Um, just someone who could provide, you know, some more either scoring or straight up lockdown defense.
Right. Ah,
um, but yeah, I don't see the Mavs going far at all next season.
but we did say that this season as well, so
We
they
did,
could pull it
and
again.
like I I will say it and I'll eat my words, bruh. But like, it's I don't even want to say the proof is in the pudding because like it's really not. They made it to the finals with nothing, bro.
It's such a crazy thing that even happened.
Right? You probably had the perfect team versus the most imperfect team go against each other in the finals. Like if you really think about it, because like we've been dogging the Mavericks the entire season and probably seasons before this
Yeah, we're
without
definitely.
Kyrie. So it was
Yeah.
like they're still not doing anything. They added one piece.
It could mean they're one piece away from winning it all, but like it has to be such a good move. It has to surprise us. Like
Right.
nothing I can see happening is putting them over the top. So this is just really me taking a step back from the Mavericks, and I have to watch what they do.
And even still, I don't know how much cap space they have. So it all depends on how much cap space they have too, on what they can sign and what they can't.
Yeah, I would definitely say the only safe ones would be Luka, Kyrie, and I would say Derek Lively, because this was his rookie year, and
Yeah.
he's playing better than a lot of centers defensively
Mhm.
already. So those are the only safe ones in my book. If that's it for finals talk, wait, I just gotta mention Jason Tatum, all-time corny quotes line run right now.
Oh, bro. That reminded me, bro. Bro, he went on a generational run with that, bro. Like he quoted Kanye, Curry, uh
did his spin on the
tried to
KG.
recreate Kobe
Yeah.
2.0, bro. Like, come on, bro. Be yourself, bro. Be your own. Make your own
No,
mark.
he could have done anything, and he just copied every way down the line. If I'm okay with it because I'm a fan, but if the rest of the league doesn't want that to happen, you got to stop the Celtics. So I say good luck. But moving on to just our last topic, a year in review. This might go quick depending on what your answer is, but is there a favorite moment you have from this season that made a great impression on you? I can go first if you want, if you got to think on it.
I mean, I'm just glad to see the Thunder, bro. Like, we've been highly touting them basically since we started this podcast. So to see them go from literally nothing to best in the West, like, is actually insane. And, obviously with this guy joining the roster, I don't see them losing any more games than 25. So, assuming, they don't get hurt crazy, but I think they could finish number one again. And then obviously, with their draft picks, whatever they have, definitely top 3 next season. I might put that on the board. Thunder top 3.
It's crazy because in the preseason, I think I said they'd be at least a play-in team. Like I was thinking, like 7-8. No,
Right, because they missed play-ins last year, so
right,
it was like it
team.
wasn't that crazy of a prediction. But to see them like skyrocket literally to the top is actually probably one of the wildest things that I think people don't even appreciate enough. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Just thinking next year, like if you're a team playing against them, you're either getting defended by Shea or Caruso or Lou Dort, and then you got Chet in the paint. Oh, Jalen Williams is there, one of the off-ball defenders too. That's hell, bro. How are you scoring on them?
You're not. You're just simply not.
Next 4 seasons of this, at least. Based on
at least. Because Shea's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Dort's probably not going anywhere. And if those two aren't going anywhere, Chet's not going anywhere.
Yeah, you saw how close they were at post-game interviews. The whole team would be there, huddling
Right.
up behind the guy. But they're close. Like, you're not breaking that band up. And this is not even considering like what draft prospects they have on the way, what trades they're going to cook up to bring in even more talent.
Exactly.
They might be a champion within 3
years. Like, essentially, they're in the Pacers situation, but way better because they have way more draft picks.
Yeah, that is crazy. My favorite moment besides winning the championship for my team is the debacle with the game ball, Giannis and the Pacers. I ain't never seen something like that. That was so ridiculous. Such a news story and a mystery for like a week after the fact. like it started like a rivalry
Right.
almost. I'm not gonna say it now because like rivalries live and die very quickly in modern NBA, but to see this team go against each other in the in-season tournament and then in playoffs, like something's cooking there. And that whole game ball debacle just like was the last straw. It looked um, like Giannis was chasing players into the locker rooms. Like that was insane. The other thing that comes close is like Chris Paul on the Rockets using a secret tunnel to confront the Clippers. Like that's the
Yeah.
last thing that's
Yeah.
even close to something like this. Um, I don't know if I want something like this happening next season or not, but it was entertaining. Um, it's just such a bright future for next season
Mhm.
because we got lots of change coming, and that we kind of have a villain almost in the Celtics, and like they're the clear favorite. Um, whatever, they're not like a team usually in the bright lights. I would say like with so much media attention, even when they were first seed,
Mhm.
there was a lot of talk around the league rather than them, and I think that's probably going to change. A lot of rosters are probably going to shift themselves to like how do they match up against them. So it'll be
Mhm.
interesting.
I do have a question for you though. I kind of wanted Angel's opinion, but we gonna rock with it. So with Jason Tatum performing the way he did, is he still the star of the team? Given Jaylen Brown got both Eastern Conference MVP uh and actual finals MVP. So does that make Jaylen Brown the star of the team now? Or is Jason Tatum still hold that status?
I think based off these playoffs, I would say Jason Tatum is still the star, but Jaylen Brown is the leader. Because a lot of what Jaylen
Mm.
Brown did was set the tone for games. Like he was guarding Luka, he was getting steals off Luka. That's very hard to do. He was
Mhm.
making sure everyone was held accountable on defense. I think he was the leading scorer. But then you got Jason Tatum. Uh, I think he led the team in rebounds, assists, steals, blocks, or most stats on the Celtics. And I think the difference between this finals and 2022 was when Tatum's shot wasn't falling, he found ways to impact the game. Because in against the Warriors, he looked like he was getting locked up. He didn't know what to do in certain instances, and he found ways to leave an impact, which was nice to see. I'm okay if he's having a bad shooting night, if he's still having like a double double and rebounds and assists, because that worked for me. Like we won the chip that way.
Right. Yeah. I just wanted to know that because I'm like, um, well, first of all, no one's talking about it.
Right.
But like, everyone was kind of talking about, oh, like Jason Tatum mad, he won MVP, whatever, whatever. And I'm like, does that mean JB probably not next season, but like soon to be number one option? Or nah, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't see that happening only because like a lot of the players sacrifice some stats just for the sake of the team, be it Drew, Porzingis, Tatum Brown, obviously.
Mm,
And I just think that would continue. I would be shocked and heartbroken if they're competing for who's 1A on that team. Um, I think Missoula would sort it out very quickly if something like that happened, but I just don't see that happening.
right.
But yeah. Um, oh, did you want to talk about Drew versus Kyrie's career?
I mean, we can, but I think it'll be a pretty short conversation.
Yeah. If that's it, I got nothing else unless you do.
Yeah, I mean, if we're gonna talk about Drew versus Kyrie, do you want to talk about the post uh that you're referring to?
Yeah. Okay. There was a post saying who's had the better career, Drew Holiday or Kyrie Irving. Now that Drew has 2 chips versus Kyrie's 1 chip. The different accolades. I remember where Drew has at least 6 All NBA defenses, and obviously Kyrie has a Rookie of the Year, a couple All NBAs, All NBA teams, and then I want to say like 5 more All Star appearances or something.
Yeah, I'm gonna try and find it real quick. Oh, okay, yeah. So Drew Holiday, 2-time NBA champ, 2-time NBA All Star. Wow, 10 years apart though. His first,
Those are the
Drew
Lakers,
Holiday's
right?
first All Star was in 2013, bro.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And then, yeah, a 6-time all 6-time NBA All Defensive Team, whether that's first and second, 3 each. And then Kyrie, NBA champ 1 time, 8-time All Star, All Star Game MVP, All NBA second team, 2-time All NBA third team, the 50-40-90 club, Rookie of the Year, and All Rookie first team. So like now, I am a Kyrie fan, so I'll probably be pretty biased here. But even though, okay, wait, I don't think I'm just going to say I don't think one career overshadows another because they play 2 completely different games.
Yeah.
Drew Holiday, although they're primary ball handlers, Drew Holiday is a more defensive minded guard, probably the best defensive guard in the league. And then you got Kyrie, who's a wizard pass first point guard. He cares about distributing the ball, probably more than anything else. And obviously, he didn't have as many defensive teams as Drew, but Drew takes pride in actually playing defense, unlike most of these players in the NBA. But I don't think one career is necessarily better than the other, but then that's going into the a similar conversation of Kobe, Mike, and LeBron. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's really all the same thing. It's just different players. Although Kobe's my GOAT, but
For this debate, they're both Hall of Famers at this point, I would say. I think the difference is Kyrie makes it first, only because you look at Kyrie's highlights, I would say, who's made a better impression like on the public as fans, as other players. It's probably Kyrie because
he helped
Drew plays.
evolve the game.
Yeah, I would say so. And then Drew took a long time to be recognized, I would say. I know you mentioned the All Star back in the Sixers, but like he wasn't really the guy back then, I would say. Everyone kind of knew him start around the Pelicans. That's when he was getting recognition for being like this defensive beast. Very good scorer. Also, just a really good playmaker as well. And it showed up, especially on the Celtics team. But I think he's had to sacrifice a lot for team success, even on the Bucks. Like he's not the most flashiest as Kyrie is, but he's definitely like the guy who gets it done. So it's just really adding on to your argument. Like they're very different players, very hard to compare. I think the only thing is that Kyrie makes it in the Hall of Fame first. But I don't know if Drew keeps winning chips. We'll have to see.
It's gonna be who retires first at this point.
All right. Yeah, that's all I got. Unless you got something.
Nah.
I guess that concludes our episode of Spin the Rock. Make sure to check us out on all podcast platforms and make sure you're following us on Twitter for updates. And see you next time.
Give us those good old 5 stars.
Sir.